go ahead to start a wee bit late. We're on it. 103. We'll call this meeting to order, the Municipal Planning Commission. Is there any agenda additions that from administration and from anybody on the board? Seeing none, I'll look for the approval. Mr. Stevens, all those in favor? Excellent, gentlemen. Minutes from November 22nd. I wasn't here, but okay. Any arrows or omissions? Seeing none, all those in favor? That's carried.
If I could, councillors, please check your microphones. I did not hear Mr. Clark there.
Checking. Hello.
Hello. Excellent.
One microphone.
So we're going to do quick introductions here, and we'll start with Rich.
That'll
Go
work.
ahead, Rich.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Fitzgerald, Development Officer. Denny Dumont.
Which way are we going, Mr. Chairman? Michelle Hoover, Legislative Assistant.
Ernie Gender, Board Member. Paul McKay, Board Member.
Larry Clark, board member.
Dave Grover.
Justin Stevens, good afternoon.
James Nyberg, Chair of the MPC.
Craig Teal, Director of Planning and Development.
Andrew Burfict, Director of Municipal Services.
Excellent. Welcome, everybody. Anybody online, welcome. We'll go to 6.2 since we have Mr. Dumont here. We'll go straight forward with that. Go ahead, whoever's taking it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The purpose is to consider a discretionary use development permit application for a wind turbine generator located in a hamlet. Subject property, let's jump the page here. Sorry, guys, I hit the wrong button. There we go. The property is located at number 4 Railway Avenue, Bymore, Stettler County. Legal description of the property is lots 17 to 19, Block 2, Plan 4684CL. It totals 1,743 square meters with access to the property obtained from Railway Avenue. Adjacent to the front yard of the property is rural agricultural land, and the municipality owns and maintains the adjacent bare parcel to the rear. The property adjacent to the west is an abandoned house, and on the east is the road allowance. Then you can forward into the maps there that kind of show you where the property is in relation to the hamlet, then more of a zoomed in picture to give you an idea of what the parcel looks like. In the top corner, you'll see that red dot there. That's the proposed location of the wind turbine generator. The next group of photos is the housing unit that the applicant has constructed there. The turbine is not currently attached to it. That is a picture of the wind turbine kit that he is placing on the top of that structure.
Okay.
Site plan shows you. So, then also this in discussion. The subject property is located in the Hamlet Residential District in the County of Stettler, and is zoned under Hamlet Residential. Under this zoning, a standalone wooden mill is discretionary use. So the structure meets all the required setbacks as it is an ancillary structure. The structure is proposed to be used to mount the turbine kit as a metal tower previously used to house a communication satellite receiver, which would have been comparable in weight to the turbine kit. The tower the turbine kit is mounted to is hinged and mounted. The tower is 50 feet in height and is proposed to be set back from the adjacent property line by 17 feet 6 inches, as indicated in the applicant's site plan. The wind turbine would be considered an ancillary structure, and the structure does meet the required setback. However, due to the height of the structure, if it were to collapse to the northwest, it would make contact with the abandoned house on the adjacent property. In the opinion of the Development Authority, the housing for the proposed turbine does appear to be sufficient to hold the turbine without the risk of collapse. But in saying so, I have to point out I am not a qualified structural engineer capable of officially determining if the structure is, enough to hold the weight. So the alternatives for the Municipal Planning Commission are to approve the application based on the conditions, approve the application based on revised conditions, postpone the decision to receive further information, or deny the application stating the reasons. And staff's recommendation is that the development permit be approved with the conditions as detailed in the attached development permit. And that completes my presentation.
Okay. Mr. Stolberg did send some in, but Mr. Stevens, go ahead.
So the tower itself was existing. It's been up for years. Is that correct?
Yes.
I had mixed feelings about adding something that height in a hamlet, but that ship has been sailed and the neighbors have had plenty of opportunity to get used to it over the decades.
Okay, and just, I think everybody got to read Mr. Stolberg's comments, but he has no complaints with it. The lot to the north with the vacant home is being purchased, as he understands. The resident who plans to rid the lot of the derelict home, so that will become a bare lot in the future. Prevailing winds are predominantly from the north or the west in our areas and have no concerns with the tower. And if it were to fall, and he's happy with the condition. So that's the area board member.
But what if it does fall down, Nick? So
What if we have an earthquake? What if we have, I mean, we've got all the what if.
just kind of wondering, is there insurance wise, does the insurance fall back onto the landowner if the tower falls? That's
Absolutely. If I have my trees fall on my neighbor's fishing shed or his camper that he parks under my trees, which him and I have conversations about, my insurance covers them. That's homeowner's insurance. That's what it's for. If my building, if the tin rips off it and blows to your house and wrecks your house, well, if you can prove it's my piece of tin, you're coming back to see me.
same color.
Same color.
That's the only concern I have.
Okay, Mr. Clark.
Just the concern I have is when we look at the green energy and with wind towers, there'll be nobody in town complain about this turbine turning or being an unengineered structure. That would be my concern. You can say it's the same weight, but different wind restrictions, et cetera. And that was my only thought, was the setback piece. You said 17 feet was correct, but I mean, if something falls, it's 50 feet plus the height of the highest blade. As long as it can't fall if it falls onto somebody's tree, it's one thing, but if it falls onto the road and something happens with school buses or something, it could be a different concern.
I don't think this can fall off the lot, right?
No, the property other than the applicant's property that we could touch is that one to the north, where the abandoned house is.
Somebody is tearing it down?
It's going to be a vacant lot. That's what I understand from the board member from the area. He has it under good authority that it's going to be torn down.
Yeah, and it hasn't become official who was purchasing it, but they have no intentions of developing the lot.
I was gonna say, usually somebody buys something that's in small towns, it's sometimes to clean up too.
Yeah, fair enough. Mr. Stevens?
Given that this is an existing tower, I probably wouldn't make this motion if it was a new tower, but for an existing tower, I will make the motion that we approve with staff conditions.
Okay, any questions or concerns? Mr. Dumont, would you like to say anything?
That wind generator is applied weight and maximum wind speed that it'll turn is a 20 mile an hour wind. Anything over that, it's a magnetic, it puts the brakes on.
Oh.
So you're not gonna get that gust of wind and all that whistling stuff.
Fair enough.
So I researched it before.
Fair enough. No, that's good. Good information. Any other questions, concerns? Seeing none, then I'll call the question. All those in favor and opposed? Mr. Grover is the one opposed. There you go. Happy generating. Okay, let's go on to 6.1, another one down south.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The purpose of this application is to consider a discretionary use development permit application for CCAN for use as an ancillary building in a hamlet. The property is located at number 10 Railway Avenue, Bymore. Legal description of the property is lots 21 to 23, block 2, 468, plan 4684 CL, and total 1,743 square meters with access to the property from Railway Avenue. Land adjacent to the front yard of the subject property is rural agricultural, bordering property not owned and maintained by the applicant are vacant bare parcels. And there's an aerial of the photo. It might look familiar because it's just up the street from the previous application. And then the site plan below. identifies where on the property the applicant is proposing to place it, which is in the rear of the parcel. Photos on the next page show you the CCAN. That location is where it is currently stored because the applicant, when he purchased it, had to move it from where the place he purchased it from. So where it's sitting in the picture is not its final destination. Once this application if it is approved, it will be moved to its permanent location to the rear of the property. The decision of the development authority must meet with the requirements of the land use bylaw. And going through it just explains that CCAN in the hamlet residential is a discretionary use. A CCAN for use as an auxiliary building is a discretionary use in the hamlet residential district. The applicant has proposed the final position of the structure in the rear corner of the property on pilings next to a row of trees for a visual buffer. CCAN is in good structural condition and is painted in neutral color, allowing it to match the other ancillary buildings and the dwelling on the property. There are 3 other properties in the hamlet with CCANs being used as ancillary buildings. No complaints were found to have been registered while reviewing the hamlet and by more development information. It is the opinion of administration the request for CCAN use for an auxiliary building does not negatively affect the use, enjoyment, or value of neighboring parcels of land. The development meets all the required setbacks, and therefore the recommendation of administration is that the development permit be approved with the conditions as detailed in the draft development permit attached. That concludes my presentation.
Okay, any questions, concerns, Mr. Stevens?
Just looking at the site plan, page 11. You have a different picture than I do.
Page, should be page 4.
11 as well.
Oh, I just wanted to clarify that does he have an existing CCAN or is the one just showing its current location and?
Yeah, it should have been labeled. So where you see it close to the driveway, close to the road, that's its current location. Where he intends to place it is the one farther back.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, you want to move that forward then?
I will move that we approve it with staff recommendation.
I gotta say, that's the best looking CCAN I've seen in a very long time. It's actually in really good shape. So, okay. Mr. Clark?
Just one question on it. Is 3 feet enough room to adequately keep vegetation under control and everything if there is a fence there?
Unfortunately, I guess it would depend what you're maintaining it with and if there's a fence or trees or whatnot. But 3 feet is what we have as a required setback, the minimum setback it can be.
Because I don't know what the fence is like. There shows a fence there, but, and then property right to the south of it. But just if it's enough room to properly maintain it for fire and hazards and everything.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's the reason is fire, right? So if somebody else built theirs, there would be a 6-foot basically walkway between us.
Other than if you got the fence in the middle.
Yeah, but I mean, if there were 2 houses built, that's how we would deal with it too, right? And typically a CCAN is going to be less fire hazard, right?
Yeah, the fence that he has there, it's just a steel fence, almost like a.
4 rods.
Yeah.
Okay, like sucker rod fence or.
And I just, again, the area, board member Les put in his comments. This individual is a valued community member, trims grass around town, caretakes at the arena, and helpful in maintaining the hamlet. His property is neat, and I have no concerns with the CCAN, especially at the back of his lot with further conditions that are already recommended. So, yeah, sounds like it takes care of the stuff. Go ahead, Mr. Grover.
I have no problem with this, because the CCAN can always be moved. It's like a windmill where you put it there and it's pretty stationary this year. And that is a pretty spanky looking CCAN. They don't want it to move.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I think this will work.
Okay.
As long as the setbacks are close enough for fire and stuff. Because that tin thing doesn't wash with me anymore. They just burnt the tin thing down here at the auction market. And it'll burn and warp and make a mess.
Great.
Thank you.
All those, I'll call the question then. All those in favor? That's carried. Okay, excellent. On to subdivision files, page 22 of your package, ladies and gentlemen. 7.1. Who's taking this one?
Me, Mr. Chairman.
All right, go ahead.
We'll just jump right to the exhibit on 29. And you can see what's going on. So this is, council, you'll remember a rezoning that we had earlier in the month. This is the same property, and the intent of the application is to take the area highlighted in pink that you can see also hatched in yellow on the air photo in front of you, and separate that from the agricultural portion of around 2.29 or 28 acres of land, and add that to the existing industrial parcel to the immediate west or left of the parcel, which is right where you see the label 295 feet running north-south. And the hatched area that you see on that exhibit is the combined pieces of land to create that 5.22 acres parcel that will be used for industrial purposes. So that is the overall gist of the subdivision. The issue of widening of road, Range Road 19-3 has already been addressed by the previous subdivision. The access for the industrial parcel to the west off 19-3 is suitable and would be used for the expansion or extension of that industrial parcel to the east. The remainder already has its own functional parcel elsewhere. The creek is really the dividing line, which is why you see that funny property line, and we changed the MDP a while back to have the discretion not to take environmental reserve dedication along the water bodies, so we don't end up managing and looking after a bunch of land in various locations throughout the county. The municipal reserve dedication on the 2.28 acres is required. So that's a 10% dedication based on the value that we use, the agricultural value of $1,250 per acre. So in this case, that works out to a contribution of around $285. And given that this is an industrial parcel, we have a definition of private title for industrial or commercial use. That means it's actually exempt from the Rural Development Fund contributions. So that's why you see in the report, there is that analysis. The conditions that are approval is recommended. And the conditions that are attached are pretty straightforward. They're making sure the taxes are up to date and current, making sure that we use a surveyor's prepare plan, making sure that the 2.28 is actually added to the other existing industrial parcel to create that larger 5.22 acres. And that is the conditions required for this particular application, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Any questions, concerns? Mr. Clark?
Just a question on land value. When you're putting it into a commercial property, why are we using the agricultural value of that land when it's going to be tied to make a almost double the size of a commercial property? Wouldn't it be the commercial value?
It can be. So the option is we either use an agreed upon value, which is a little bit easier, or the applicant could have a market appraisal done. If you do a market appraisal in these kind of circumstances, there's set rules you have to follow. You have to you would assume the commercial use. You would also assume that it's going to be approved, but you would also treat it in its raw land value, which kind of also brings value down. We opted to take the agreed upon value that we use for the other calculations, just as it's a little bit more straightforward and simple, spending probably around $3,000 to $4,000 on appraisal. And we're never sure what the outcome would be, but it's probably kind of our MR dedication will probably be less than the cost of doing the appraisal. So.
Okay, I'm going to go with Mr. Clark and then Mr.
Well, it's just though, even at $1,250, you look at what a quarter of land selling for now. And I know that's sellable price, but like there's no land anywhere in this county that's sold for the last 10 years at $1,250 an acre.
So we do revisit that from time to time, and unfortunately, Mr. Chair, the $1,250 is what we have on the books right now. I think it's through the fee bylaw officially that lets a CAO look at that and establish it year over year.
It's something we need to look at.
Okay, good point, Mr. Stevens.
I was going to agree with Board Member Clark that, yeah, this $1,250 seems completely out of range. That's $200,000 a quarter. That's crazy. But I agree we should have that discussion. I just think that we have to evaluate this
Yeah.
with the price that's in place. But yeah, in the future, I'd definitely like to look at that.
The interesting spot about this one is as soon as they amalgamate it, their taxes are going to go up because it will be taxed at now commercial land rate. And I'm sure it's a lot more than 1250. So go ahead, Mr.
The last time, like when they was subdivided, there was a talk about the one building in the very center on being any distance. Has that ever been verified that it's within like that 3 feet? And right at the very, or the south lot, but the building right on the north side of it. There was a concern, like when it was subdivided.
Oh, you're talking yeah, too close.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Well, I do recall that file. It's actually probably one of the earlier ones I worked on. And yes, at the time of endorsement, that's when the surveyor would have brought in the information to confirm that we're looking for a very small distance. And that's where it would have been signed off that, now in this air photo, 3 feet is a level of error when you're trying to superimpose these kind of drawings on top of the air photo. So that's why at the time of creating that parcel for actually, Andrew, you could probably point to the building just so everyone knows what we're talking about. Thank you. That was confirmed at that point in time.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody want to move this forward? Area board member, maybe?
Yes, please. Forward it with the conditions on it, please.
Any other questions or concerns? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, that is carried. Mr. Clark, would you like a motion to have administration bring back to council?
Yes, I would, just on that land value, please.
That we have a review of it?
Certainly, sometime within the second quarter, is that?
No, it's just as long as we look at it, as long as we don't have another one or two of these.
So there's a motion to have the administration bring to council the land value review for subdivisions go forward.
I'll word it.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Administration understands what we want.
Yeah, we'll bump that, but it's actually a policy we'll bring back to Cal, policy 4.5, municipal environmental reserve land values. We are going through a 2-year policy review. You guys will see starting at our next Cal, and we'll make sure to schedule this one for earlier than later.
And to that end, I think it's a double-edged sword because it also makes what we pay for land when we purchase it to go forward. But we have been overpaying anyway, so we might as well make the policy jive with what we're doing.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to 8.1. We're just cruising here. Yeah, who's taking that one?
I'll take that one, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So to year end, planning staff have processed a total of 113 development permits. For analysis purposes, I've broken these down into 6 categories: industrial, residential, ancillary, commercial, solar, and RVs as dwelling units. The total number of residential permits processed was 32. This includes new construction, moved-in dwellings, manufactured homes, modular homes, and existing additions to existing dwellings. The total estimated value provided by applicants for these permits was $6,519,000. The total number of ancillary permits processed was 31. This includes shops, garages, tarp sheds, or any outbuilding that is ancillary to the primary use of the property. This number is difficult to be exact on, as ancillary buildings with attached dwellings are becoming more common in the county. So what I mean by that is like a shop house. So you build a big structure with a portion of it's dedicated to a residential use, and then the rest of it is ancillary. So we're seeing more of those permits coming forward. The estimated value provided by the applicants for these permits is $1,250,996. The total number of industrial permits processed was 2. Both of these applications were related to sand and gravel extraction operations. The number of these permits processed in a year varies, as most permits are renewals and not new operations. Both permits received in 2023 for gravel pits that have previously been in operation. The estimated value provided by the applicant for these permits was $350,000. The total number of commercial permits processed in 2023 was 6. These operations range from an automotive repair shop, guest ranch, massage clinic, a campground, custom furniture manufacturing shop, and an esthetician shop. Only one application was of new construction, and the others were new uses in existing structures. The estimated value provided by the applicants for these permits was $335,000. There were 7 applications for solar power installations. There were no applications in 2022 for such project. This trend is most likely attributed to the incentives available to assist in the cost of installation. These 7 permits are all residential uses, not large industrial installations. The estimated value provided by the applicants for these permits was $237,000. Planning staff processed 19 permits for RVs being used as dwellings. This number does not include temporary RV permits. These permits are time-limited permits and vary from 2 years to 5 years depending on the zoning. The estimated value provided by the applicants for these permits was $521,118. And then if you turn to the next page, it just kind of breaks it out in a pie chart to compare 2023 with 2022. Almost identical in the number of permits that we processed. 2022, the total value was a little bit higher, 11 million versus 9 million in change from 2022 to 2023. But it should be noted that these amounts are estimated. They are given to us by the applicant. We will be doing a comparison analysis later this year for permits processed in 2022 calendar year to compare the value given by the applicant with the actual assessed value given by the property assessor. The reason I'm going back to 2022 is we give the applicants 2 years to finish their construction. So hopefully what we see for value on those projects will be the end result and not the, mid-construction kind of thing. That concludes my report.
Okay, any questions? Rich, is there, out of the 32 residential, do we know they're complete? When do you guys know if they're complete? Just because they take a permit out doesn't mean that I'm actually doing the work.
Right. So we don't actually do a follow-up on it to ensure they are completed. What happens is the tax assessor may come to us and say, hey, I've got this permit, but when I go to the property, there's no construction. So at that time, we follow up with the applicant, and if the 2 years has expired and they haven't finished construction, they haven't applied for an extension, then that permit is null and void.
Okay. So there's no, these estimates that we're talking of 6.5 and 6.8 might not necessarily be there if they're not.
Absolutely. Yeah,
And that is an estimated amount of what the construction cost and what the actual value is. Could be 2 different things, right? So location. Build a house in Oberlin or build a house in White Sands. Value might be different. Same house, but value might be different. Any other questions, concerns for them? I like this. This is actually good information. It gives us a good idea that we're working. How hard would it be to just on the off chance, how many hours each one would put in, or roughly? What is your most difficult development permit as far as man hours?
I personally, the industrial ones, I think.
Gravel permits that he's working on for the first time.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
So the gravel permits that we get the least amount of value increase, we spend the most amount of time on. Not so sure it's in our best interest to do a bunch of gravel permits, right?
I think we had one other outlier that probably threw the man hours awry recently.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, yes, but that was the same industrial though. Residents are pretty much build your house, get it done. Okay. Thank you very much for that information. Paul?
Yeah, I'm just gonna move that we accept the report.
Thank you. All those in favor? That is carried. Okay. Since we have no new business, no old business, which it was all new business, I guess, we're gonna go into camera. Somebody want to give me a motion for that? Mr. Gender? Looking at you. Go in camera at whatever time it is. All those in favor? It's carried. Thank you.